The December wind in Chicago was not only biting cold, but sharp as a knife. It swept through the alleyways carrying dry leaves and slithered into every gap of Ethan Hayes's thick coat. Christmas was approaching, but for Ethan, this season was only a cruel reminder of emptiness. 3 years had passed since that fateful day, but the scent of pain still lingered like cheap perfume haunting him. Ethan lived in a small studio apartment on the second floor of an old building. The room was neat to the point of being lifeless. Everything arranged methodically and without warmth. No pictures on the walls, no souvenirs, no signs that a life had ever existed here. On the windowsill, a small cactus somehow survived, perhaps the only thing left that carried even a hint of life. Tonight, Ethan didn't turn on the lights. He sat on the old sofa, gazing out the window, where snowflakes gently began to fall. The Christmas lights from the houses across the street cast golden red and green glimmers on the floor. He heard the distant toll of church bells and the warm sound of carolers singing from a nearby house. Those sounds which should have brought joy now dug deep into the wound in his heart. He remembered a Christmas night 3 years ago. Sarah, his wife, was sitting by the fireplace, her eyes sparkling like the stars on the Christmas tree. She had placed his hand on her belly, where their unborn child was growing. "Ethan," she whispered, "I want to name our baby David. I think it's a strong name, the name of a king." They had laughed and talked about the future, the creamy yellow paint for the nursery, the unfinished dreams they would complete together. But all of it had dissolved like bubbles. Sarah was gone, taking with her their unborn son. Ethan's world collapsed, and he locked himself in a prison of loneliness. He had abandoned his career as an architect, the career he had dedicated his life to. The beautiful designs, the skyscrapers he once built, were now just reminders of a life he no longer wanted. He took a night shift security job, a job that didn't require him to communicate, a job that didn't ask him to feel. He became a silent shadow, a ghost walking among the living. The phone rang, breaking the silence. It was Mitchell, his lawyer, and also his closest friend. Ethan looked at the screen, then quietly turned off the phone. He didn't want to talk to anyone. He didn't want to hear hollow words of comfort. Mitchell was the only one who hadn't abandoned him, but Ethan had pushed everyone away. The clock struck 11 p.m. It was time to go to work. Ethan put on his security uniform, adjusted his collar, and stepped out of the apartment. The night wind rushed through the hallway, carrying the chill to his bones. He locked the door and heard the metallic click like a door closing forever behind him. As he stepped outside, the wind picked up, blowing snowflakes into his face. He lowered his head and clenched his fists in his pockets. His neighbors had decorated their homes beautifully, but all Ethan saw was emptiness. Everything was glittering and bright, but there was no warmth. As he neared the parking lot, a small sound caught his attention. Clink, rustle, clink. The sound came from behind the large trash bins. At first he thought it was a stray cat rummaging through the trash. He was about to walk on, but an odd urge made him stop. It was an urge he had buried long ago. He squinted into the darkness. In the dim light of a street lamp, a small figure was moving slowly. It wasn't an animal. Ethan's heart began to race. It was a child, a little girl carefully flipping through the trash bins. Her tiny cold red hands were digging through the filthy garbage with the skill of someone who had done this many times before. "Hey," Ethan called softly, not wanting to scare the little girl. She startled and looked up. Her big brown eyes were full of fear. She clutched a torn plastic bag tightly to her chest, ready to run at any moment. She wore a thin, purple sweater, not nearly enough to shield her from the bone-chilling cold. Her hair was messy, her face small, thin, and pale. She stared at him with suspicion, the eyes of someone who had grown up too fast. "It's okay," Ethan said slowly, raising his hand. "I'm not going to hurt you." The little girl remained still, studying his face with distrust. "Who are you?" Her voice was tiny, almost drowned out by the wind. "I'm Ethan. I live here," he said slowly, stepping closer. "What's your name?" After a brief silence, the little girl whispered, "Lily." "Lily." Ethan repeated, his heart tightening. "What a beautiful name." He knelt down facing her. The cold wind hit his face, but he didn't feel it. All his attention was focused on this tiny girl. "What are you looking for here, Lily?" Lily clutched the plastic bag tightly, her lips trembling. "Food." One word, but it hit Ethan's heart like a punch. Food. A child should never have to look for food in the trash, especially on Christmas Eve. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan asked, his voice softer than ever. Lily looked down at the ground. "I'm looking for something else, too." "Something else?" Lily slowly opened the plastic bag and pulled out an old roll of paper. It was a faded pencil drawing of a house with two people standing at the door. "My grandma drew it," she said. "She said this was our house, but we had to leave and I lost it. I thought, maybe I'd find it here." Ethan looked into Lily's eyes, and he saw the desperation behind them. She wasn't just looking for a drawing. She was looking for a home. She wasn't just hungry for food. She was hungry for love. He saw the similarity between them, two lonely souls, one who had lost a family and one who was searching for one. He stood up and looked down at her. "Lily, are you cold?" She nodded, clutching her thin sweater tighter. Ethan took a chocolate bar from his coat pocket and handed it to her. Lily stared at it, hesitated, then carefully took it. "It's getting late," Ethan said. "You shouldn't be out here alone. Do you want to come home with me? I have hot food and a warm place for you." Lily looked at him, her eyes filled with suspicion and fear. Trust had been broken so many times that she couldn't trust a stranger. She took a step back. Ethan understood. He didn't press her. He simply smiled, a rare and sincere smile. "Okay. If you don't want to, that's fine, but..." He looked around. "Can you show me the picture?" Lily hesitated, then slowly handed him the drawing. Ethan unrolled it. The picture was simple, just a house with two people standing outside, but he could see the love in it. "It's a beautiful drawing," Ethan said. "I have an idea. I'll take you to a convenience store, and I'll buy you some hot food and a box of crayons. I won't take you home, but you have to let me take you somewhere safe. Is that okay?" Lily nodded. She sensed the sincerity in his voice. She had grown used to empty promises, but Ethan's eyes said something else. They walked together to the nearby convenience store. The wind still blew strong, but now Ethan felt a bit of warmth. The little girl walked beside him, small and silent. She didn't ask any questions. She just clung to the plastic bag holding her old drawing. At the convenience store, Ethan bought Lily a hot can of chicken soup and a grilled cheese sandwich. He also picked up a box of crayons and a drawing pad. Finally, he walked to the toy aisle. He saw a small brown teddy bear with a red bow. His heart tightened. He remembered Sarah once saying that she would buy a teddy bear for David on his first Christmas. He took it, paid for it, and returned to where Lily was sitting waiting. He placed the soup and sandwich on the table along with the crayons and the drawing pad. Lastly, he handed her the teddy bear. Lily stared at the bear, her eyes wide. "For me, a Christmas gift," Ethan said, his voice soft. Tears began to run down Lily's thin face. She hugged the teddy bear tightly, pressing it against her chest so hard her fingers turned white. It was the first gift she had received in years, the first gift since her grandmother had passed away. "Thank you, Uncle," she whispered. Seeing Lily like this, Ethan's heart melted. He knew he couldn't let her go back to the cold, trash-strewn area. He knew that no matter what he had to save her, he had to take her home to his cold house and begin to rebuild a family he thought he could never have again. Ethan sat down next to Lily, watching, as she carefully ate spoonfuls of soup. Outside, the snow fell thicker and thicker. His lonely Christmas night now had a companion, an unexpected companion, a companion who had come and changed everything without him ever knowing it. After Lily finished her grilled cheese sandwich, a small flicker of warmth appeared in her tired eyes. Ethan felt his heart lighten a little. He sat across from her sipping his black coffee. No longer did he feel the cold of the winter night or the emptiness in his soul. His entire world had shrunk to this moment, with the little girl tightly holding the teddy bear and devouring her sandwich. "Do you want to go?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence. Lily looked up, her eyes still cautious. "To my house," he added, emphasizing each word. Lily looked at the teddy bear in her hands, then glanced back at Ethan. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded softly. Ethan drove them home. They both remained silent, but this silence was different from the loneliness he was accustomed to. This silence had a hint of anticipation, of excitement. Lily sat in the back seat, clutching the teddy bear, occasionally glancing at Ethan through the rearview mirror. When they arrived at the apartment, Lily stepped inside, her eyes wide with curiosity. The room was neat, clean, but strangely empty. There were no toys on the floor, no paintings on the walls. She spotted an easel covered with a white cloth in one corner, and intrigued, she walked closer. "That's Sarah's," Ethan said softly. "My ex-wife." Lily didn't ask any more questions. She walked into the bathroom where Ethan had already prepared a warm bath. The hot water made her skin flush pink. She soaked in the water, feeling the warmth spread through her body. It was the first time in weeks that she felt safe and cared for. While Lily bathed, Ethan went into the room, taking out an old t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. He searched for clothes that might fit her. He brought them into the bathroom. "Here," he said. "I don't have any kids' clothes. You can wear this for now." Lily nodded. She put on his t-shirt, which was long enough to reach her knees, loose and roomy but warm. She felt at ease. When Lily emerged from the bathroom, her hair was still wet, her eyes tired but less panicked. Ethan handed her a towel. "Sit here," he said, pointing to the sofa. He sat down opposite her and began drying her hair. Lily closed her eyes. The gentle hum of the hairdryer and the tender touch on her head made her feel sleepy. She had never felt so safe. When Lily had fallen asleep on the sofa, Ethan went to the kitchen to prepare himself a warm cup of tea. He sat beside her, watching her sleep. Lily looked so small and fragile. Suddenly, the phone rang. Ethan startled. It was Mitchell. Ethan hesitated before answering. "Ethan, are you okay?" Mitchell asked, his voice full of concern. Ethan took a deep breath. "I'm fine, Mitch. It's just, I've encountered something." Mitchell was silent for a moment. "What's going on?" "I found a little girl. She was rummaging through the trash looking for food. I brought her home." Mitchell was silent for a long time. "What are you kidding me, Ethan? Do you know how dangerous that is? The social services system." "I know," Ethan interrupted, "but I couldn't leave her there. I had to do something." Mitchell sighed. "Listen, Ethan, I know what you've been through. If you want to help her, fine. But don't do it recklessly. You can't keep her there. You could be sued. You could be arrested." "I know," Ethan said, his voice firm. "But I can't let her go back to that system. Mitch, I've seen the bruises on her. I can't." Mitchell fell silent, his voice growing more serious. "All right, Ethan. You don't need to explain. I understand. But we need to do this carefully. You need a plan. You need a good lawyer, and you need a therapist. Right now you can't be a father. You've been too hurt." Ethan lowered his head. He knew Mitchell was right. He had been hurt. He had lived in loneliness for 3 years. He didn't know how to be a father. But he couldn't leave Lily alone. "I'll call you tomorrow, Mitch," Ethan said. "We'll talk." "Okay. Good night," Mitchell replied. Ethan hung up. He sat watching Lily sleep peacefully, feeling an odd sense of urgency. He reached out and gently stroked her face. Lily let out a soft sigh and curled deeper into the pillow. Ethan sat there all night watching Lily sleep. He didn't feel tired. He just felt a strong urge. He remembered the day he met Sarah. He remembered the first time she smiled, her eyes sparkling like the stars in the sky. He recalled the promises they made to each other. He had promised to protect her. He had promised to protect David. But he had failed. Now he had a second chance. A chance to make amends. A chance to protect this tiny soul. The next morning, Ethan woke up to find Lily sitting up staring at a painting of the starry sky. She reached out and touched the stars. "This is from Sarah," Ethan said. "She was a painter." Lily didn't say anything. She just stared at the painting. "She painted it for David," Ethan added. "My son." But she didn't finish it. Lily remained silent. Ethan didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to talk about his pain. Then Lily stood up and walked over to the box of crayons Ethan had bought for her the night before. She picked up a white crayon and drew a small star next to the big one. "This is David," Lily said in her tiny voice. "I see him here." Ethan looked at the drawing, and his heart melted. He saw the tiny star glowing beside the big one. He looked into Lily's eyes, and he saw understanding. The little girl had understood his pain. She had understood his loss. Lily was not just a friend. She was a companion. She had come and given him a purpose in life. He would not let her be alone. He would protect her. He would fight for her, no matter what happened. The legal battle began the very next morning, more tense and complicated than Ethan had anticipated. Mitchell had worked through the night to prepare the initial paperwork, but he warned that this was just the beginning. Immediately, a child welfare worker was assigned to the case, a cold woman named Mrs. Davies. She arrived at Ethan's apartment with a skeptical face and a notebook. She interviewed Ethan, asking probing questions about his past, about his isolation after the tragedy. Her eyes constantly scanned the room, examining every item, every corner, as if searching for signs of his instability. "Mr. Hayes," Mrs. Davies said, her voice flat, "your records show that you've led a rather reclusive life these past 3 years. No friends, no social interaction, not even a job that requires communication. This gives us reason to be concerned about your ability to care for a vulnerable child." Ethan looked her in the eye. "I've been hurt. I understand what Lily is going through. That's the only reason I think I can help her." Mrs. Davies wrote diligently, not showing any emotion. She also interviewed Lily privately. Lily, with her wisdom, said little. She only told her that Ethan had saved her from the cold, given her hot food and a teddy bear. Mrs. Davies didn't believe her. To her, those words sounded too simple, too beautiful to be true. The tension reached its peak when Lily's former foster parents arrived. A middle-aged couple dressed sharply entered with an outward appearance of feigned concern. They were Mr. and Mrs. Wallace. They claimed they had been searching for Lily everywhere and were so lucky that she was safe. Their voices were sweet, but Ethan could feel the falseness. Mitchell had investigated their records. They received financial subsidies for every child they fostered, and Lily, with her special needs, brought in a significant amount of money. They wanted Lily back, not out of love, but for the money. One morning, Ethan opened the door to find Mr. Wallace standing there. "Hey, buddy," he said in a sugary tone. "Let me take Lily home. We can offer you some money as a thank you." Ethan clenched his fists, restraining his anger. "Lily is not a commodity. She will stay here with me." "You'll regret this," Mr. Wallace threatened. "Who do you think you are? A failed man living alone thinking you can be a father? The system won't let you do that." His words struck Ethan like a blow. He had thought he was strong enough to face his past, but those words stirred up deep fear and doubt within him. "You're wrong," a small voice said. Lily stood behind Ethan, clutching her teddy bear. "Uncle Ethan is not a failure. He's the kindest person I've ever met." Mr. Wallace glared at Lily. "Lily, come home. You don't belong here." "I don't have a home with you," Lily said, her voice trembling. "This is my home, with Uncle Ethan." Mr. Wallace turned and walked away, but his threats still haunted Ethan. He knew the battle would not be easy. Ethan realized that he had to fight not only for custody of Lily, but also to prove to himself and the world that he was worthy of love, worthy of being a father. He decided to face his fears. He called a therapist Mitchell had recommended, Dr. Eleanor Vance. At their first meeting, Dr. Vance didn't say much. She just listened. She listened to Ethan's story, to his pain. She asked him about Sarah, about David. For the first time in 3 years, Ethan spoke about his grief. He talked about the guilt of not being able to save his wife and son, about the emptiness he had tried to fill with isolation. Dr. Vance looked at Ethan, neither sympathizing nor pitying him. She simply said, "Your pain is real, Mr. Hayes, but it will become a burden if you don't face it. A child cannot carry the pain of an adult." Her words hit hard. Ethan realized that he couldn't just love Lily. He had to heal himself. He had to become strong not only for her, but for himself. While Ethan attended therapy sessions and interviews, his relationship with Lily deepened. He realized that taking care of Lily was not just a responsibility, but a form of therapy. He learned how to braid her hair, even though the first time he did it, it looked like a tangled mess. He learned patience when she had nightmares at night, crying out for her grandmother. He learned how to understand her complex emotions, the times when she shut herself off and didn't say a word. One afternoon, Ethan came home to find Lily sitting on the floor with a box of crayons and a sketchbook. She was drawing a picture, a house with a red roof and a garden full of flowers. Ethan sat down beside her. "This house is beautiful," he said. "It's our house," Lily said. "Grandma painted it." Ethan looked at the drawing and he saw a happy home. He looked into Lily's eyes and he saw a spark of hope. She was no longer afraid. She trusted him now. They went together to a furniture store. Ethan bought Lily a small bed with a warm quilt and a soft pillow. Lily was so excited that she jumped up and screamed with joy. Ethan saw the happiness in her eyes, and he felt happiness too. Ethan realized that healing wasn't an easy process, but it was a worthwhile one. He had found a purpose in life. He had found a family. One evening when Lily was sound asleep, Ethan sat on the sofa, gazing at Sarah's starry sky painting. He remembered the day Sarah had painted it. She had smiled and said, "I'll paint a star for each of our dreams, and the biggest star will be for David. You know, Ethan, our love will always shine like the stars in the sky." Ethan reached out and touched the painting. He remembered everything he had been through. He remembered the pain, the loneliness, and the fear. But he also remembered Lily's courage, Mitchell's patience, and Dr. Vance's understanding. He realized that he was no longer alone. He had Lily a companion. He had Mitchell a trusted friend. He had Dr. Vance a guide. He had a family he had built himself. He knew the legal battle still lay ahead, but he was no longer afraid. He knew he would win. He would fight for Lily, for Sarah, for David. He would fight for a future he once thought was beyond his reach. Ethan stood up and walked to Lily, who was sleeping. He gently tucked her in. He gazed at her peaceful face and he felt an immeasurable love. He knew that he would never abandon her. He would protect her. He would fight for her. No matter what happened. Christmas night had passed, but an invisible gift had come and changed everything forever. It was the gift of love, of forgiveness, and of healing. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity, but they were also full of meaning for Ethan. He had broken free from his isolation, stepping out of his shell and facing the world. His days no longer consisted solely of dull night shifts, but also therapy sessions, meetings with social workers, and above all, caring for Lily. He no longer lived in a world of loneliness. Now he woke up early to prepare breakfast for her, spent evenings reading books or drawing pictures together. One day, Dr. Eleanor Vance suggested an outdoor therapy session at a small park near her office. Ethan and Lily went there. While Dr. Vance sat on a bench and observed from afar, Ethan tried to play with Lily. However, he felt awkward and unsure as he struggled to engage with her. Lily, like an old forgotten doll, didn't know how to play. She simply sat on the swing, moving back and forth slowly. "Do you want to play on the slide, Lily?" Ethan asked, his voice hesitant. Lily shook her head. "I don't like it." Ethan didn't know what to do. He sat down next to her. Both of them were silent. Lily watched the other children running and laughing, her eyes filled with longing, but also distance. "When I was young, I used to play this game with my friends." Ethan tried to start a conversation. "I was always the first to finish." Lily looked at him. "I don't have any friends." Her words hit Ethan like a punch. He realized that Lily was not only physically hurt, but emotionally scarred too. She had been separated from the world of children, deprived of the childhood she should have had. "It's okay," Ethan said softly. "You have me now." Dr. Vance watched them from a distance, taking notes. High empathy levels, but needs to learn how to express it. Needs to confront his fears. After the session, Dr. Vance called Ethan into her office. She handed him a file. "This is Lily's file. I think you should read it. You need to understand what she's been through." Ethan opened the file and began reading. He learned about the short but tragic life Lily had lived. Her mother, a young girl, had abandoned her right after birth. Lily was raised by her grandmother, an artist with a free spirit. She lived a simple but happy life until her grandmother passed away, and Lily was sent to the foster care system. He read about the different foster families she had been placed with. The first family was an elderly couple who treated her like a toy, a doll to play with. The second family was a young couple with two of their own children, who treated Lily like a servant, like free childcare. The last family was the Wallace family, who had beaten and starved her. As Ethan read, his hands began to tremble. He felt a surge of anger. He clenched the file tightly, nearly tearing it. "They did this to her," Ethan said, his voice filled with fury. "Yes," Dr. Vance replied calmly. "You know a child cannot bear the pain of adults. Lily had to bear their pain, and now she's carrying yours." Ethan felt as if everything was falling apart. He realized that he couldn't just love Lily. He also had to heal himself. He had to become strong, not just for her, but for himself. One weekend morning, Ethan decided to take Lily to visit the graves of Sarah and David. It had been 3 years since Ethan had last been there. The cemetery was quiet, blanketed in white snow. The graves of Sarah and David lay side by side. On Sarah's headstone there was a photo of her smiling. On David's headstone there was only a name. Ethan knelt down and placed a bouquet of white chrysanthemums on Sarah's grave. He touched the photo of her, and tears began to fall. Lily stood beside him silently. She didn't ask anything. She simply reached out and gently touched his hand. "Mom, Sarah. Dad, David." Ethan said, his voice choking with emotion. "This is Lily." Lily walked up to David's grave and placed her little teddy bear there. "This is my gift for him," she whispered. Ethan looked at the teddy bear lying on the grave, small and lonely, but with great significance. It was a promise that David would never be forgotten, a promise that Ethan had found a new purpose in life. "Dad," Lily said, her voice soft. "Don't be sad. Mom Sarah and brother David will always be with you." Ethan turned to look at Lily, his eyes red. "How do you know Grandma said that the people we love never leave us?" Lily replied. "They just go to another place and they will always stay in our hearts." Ethan hugged Lily and he cried. It was the first time in many years that he cried. The tears didn't signify weakness. They were a release. He hadn't cried in 3 years, but now the pain poured out. He realized that Lily was not just a child in need of rescue. She was his teacher, his companion. She had taught him how to face pain, how to forgive himself, and how to love again. Back home, Ethan went to his workspace. He took out an old design, a house design that he and Sarah had once dreamed of building. He sat down and began to draw. He drew a house with a large garden, a room for Lily to work in, and a bedroom for both him and her. He drew a house with a red roof and a garden full of flowers. Lily entered the room, saw Ethan drawing, and walked over. She picked up a pencil and drew a little house next to the large house. "This is our house," she said. "Grandma drew it." Ethan smiled. "That's right," he said. "Now we are a family." He knew that the legal battle still lay ahead, but he no longer feared it. He would fight for Lily, for Sarah, for David. He would fight for a future that he had once thought was beyond his reach. The final day of the adoption hearing approached. The anxiety weighed heavily on Ethan despite Mitchell's careful preparation. He couldn't stop thinking about the threats from the Wallace family and the skepticism of the system. This wasn't just a legal case. It was a battle for Lily's future and for his own healing. That morning, Ethan woke up early. He made a special breakfast for Lily, star-shaped pancakes and a glass of strawberry milk. Lily, though she had grown emotionally still, seemed a little nervous. She wore a brand new purple dress that Ethan had bought for her, but not the thin sweater from that Christmas night long ago. The dress wasn't just clothing, it symbolized a new life. "Are you nervous?" Uncle Lily asked, noticing his hands shaking a little as he poured the milk. "A little," Ethan admitted. "But I believe everything will be okay." Lily walked over and placed her hand on his, a simple gesture, but one full of strength. "Don't worry. I'm here." The courtroom was more crowded than Ethan had expected. Lily clutched his hand tightly, her small hands damp with sweat. Mitchell stood beside them, his calm voice the only source of reassurance. "Everything will be fine, Ethan. We have enough evidence." "You've done everything you needed to do," Mitchell reassured. Judge Patricia Hernandez, a middle-aged woman with sharp yet understanding eyes, called the hearing to order. She had heard countless stories over the course of her career. But Ethan and Lily's story was different. There was something deeply human about it. The Wallace family's lawyer, an older man with an air of arrogance, began his argument. He painted a picture of Ethan as a failure, someone who had isolated himself, unfit to raise a child. He cited old job records documents from the Child Welfare Agency, and even the fabricated testimony of the Wallaces. "Mr. Ethan Hayes has been unable to take care of himself for 3 years. He's refused every form of help. He's closed himself off from the world. A man like that, Your Honor, cannot be a good father for a deeply traumatized child," the lawyer said, his voice authoritative. Each of his words felt like a knife stabbing Ethan's heart. He could feel the old pain return, the guilt, the helplessness. He lowered his head, trying to hold back his emotions. But then Mitchell stood up. He didn't make a harsh argument. Instead, he simply said, "Your Honor, I have a witness." Mitchell called Dr. Eleanor Vance to testify. She didn't speak of theory or numbers. She spoke about Ethan's healing process. "When I first met Mr. Hayes, he was a man frozen in pain. He didn't want to face his past. But Lily's arrival changed everything. She wasn't a replacement, she was a catalyst," Dr. Vance said, her voice full of conviction. "He's been brave enough to face his pain. He's learned to love again. And most importantly, he's learned to accept help." Next, a teacher from Lily's school testified. She spoke about how Lily had transformed from a withdrawn child who didn't speak into an intelligent and sociable student. She spoke of how Ethan would visit the school, his concern for every little detail from homework to school performances. Finally, Judge Hernandez turned to Lily. "Lily," she said, her voice gentle, "is there anything you would like to say?" Lily, with unexpected courage, stood up. She didn't look at the Wallace family's lawyer. She looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, Lily," said her tiny voice clear, "Uncle Ethan saved me. Not just that Christmas night when I was cold and hungry, but every day after that." She took a deep breath. "He stayed with me when I had nightmares. He braided my hair even though it was messy. He taught me how to play on the slide. He read books to me every night. He gave me a home and a family." Lily looked at Ethan, her eyes welling with tears. "I know he's my real father, because he chose me, and he keeps choosing me every day." The courtroom fell silent. The quiet sobs of a few people in the room could be heard. Judge Hernandez looked at Ethan and Lily, her gaze filled with emotion. Proof of love and choice. "That proof cannot be defeated," Judge Hernandez said. She struck the gavel. "By the authority granted to me by the state, I hereby approve the adoption petition. Mr. Ethan Hayes, from this moment forward, you are the legal father of Lily Hayes." Ethan felt his knees give way, overwhelmed with relief and joy. He looked at Lily, her eyes shining like two stars. She smiled a radiant smile. "We did it," Lily whispered. "We did it," Ethan repeated, hugging her tightly. In that moment, 3 years of pain and isolation melted away. He felt his heart beating again, stronger than ever. He had found David in Lily. He had found Sarah in her smile. He had found a family. It was proof of love. It was proof of choice. And it was proof of a family built on love, patience, and commitment. Ethan hadn't just saved Lily, he had saved himself. He had found an invisible gift, a gift he once thought he would never have again. As the courtroom doors closed, Ethan and Lily walked outside. The bright afternoon sun shone directly on their faces, warming their souls after months of tension. The Wallace family and their lawyer walked past them with angry faces, but now their threats meant nothing. They were just shadows of a past Ethan had overcome. "Dad," Lily called out. The sound of her voice echoed in Ethan's ears, sweeter than any music he had ever heard. He looked down at her. "What is it, sweetheart?" Lily smiled, her face radiant. "Let's go home, Dad." Ethan nodded. "That's right. Let's go home." On the way home, they stopped at a bakery. Ethan bought Lily a cupcake with purple frosting, her favorite color. He also bought a small cake for himself, even though he wasn't used to eating sweets anymore. He watched Lily eat it carefully, savoring every bite. "What's the first thing you're going to do when we get home?" Ethan asked. Lily thought for a moment. "I'm going to hang Grandma's picture on the wall, and I'm going to draw a picture of us." Ethan smiled. "That's wonderful." When they arrived at the apartment, Lily ran straight to her room, grabbed Grandma's picture. She used tape to carefully stick it to the wall. The old picture with the pencil-drawn house now hung next to Sarah's starry sky painting. 2 pictures, 2 stories, 2 pains now intertwined, creating a new story of love and healing. Lily turned to Ethan. "Now we're a family, right?" Ethan knelt down and hugged her tightly. "Yes. Forever a family." A warm feeling spread through Ethan's heart. He had lost one family, but now he had found another. A family not built on blood, but on love, choice, and commitment. Ethan looked at Lily, his eyes brimming with tears. He knew that he had found an invisible gift, a gift that he once thought he would never have again, a gift more precious than anything in the world. 1 year later, it was Christmas again. Unlike the cold loneliness of that past night, Ethan's apartment was now filled with warmth and laughter. A small Christmas tree, sparkling with decorations, stood in the corner of the room, filling the air with the familiar scent of pine. On the table, brightly colored Christmas cards sat sent by Mitchell, Dr. Vance, and Lily's teacher. This was the first time in years that Ethan truly felt like he was a part of the world. Ethan was preparing a special dinner for the two of them, roast turkey with mashed potatoes. Lily stood beside him wearing a cute little apron, helping him mix the salad. Her face, no longer gaunt and hollow, was now full and rosy. Her big eyes still held that spark of intelligence, but now they were filled with trust and joy rather than wariness. "Dad, I think the turkey's done," Lily said, her voice full of excitement. Ethan smiled, a warm smile he once thought he could never have again. He gently took the turkey out of the oven, and the whole room was filled with the delicious smell. After dinner, they sat on the old sofa, the same one Lily had slept on the first night. Lily handed Ethan a small gift wrapped in yellow paper with a red bow. "This is your Christmas gift, Dad," she said, her eyes sparkling. Ethan carefully opened the gift. Inside was a painting. Not the old painting from Grandma or Sarah's starry sky painting. This was a completely new painting. It depicted a small house with a red roof, a garden full of sunflowers, and a lush green lawn. In front of the house stood two figures, one an adult and the other a child, both smiling brightly, holding hands. At the top, in childlike but careful handwriting, Lily had written, "My family." Ethan's throat tightened, and hot tears threatened to fall. "Lily, it's perfect. This is us," Lily said, her voice full of pride. "This painting has the red roof I've always dreamed of, and the sunflower garden that Dad said Mom Sarah loved. See, we're smiling." Ethan looked at the painting, and he saw everything he had ever longed for. He saw his home, the one he had once dreamed of building with Sarah. He saw Lily's smile, and he remembered Sarah's smile. He realized that even though life had taken away the most precious things from him, it had also returned something far more valuable. He knelt down and hugged Lily tightly. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received." "Dad," Lily whispered, snuggling her head into his shoulder. "Can I tell you a secret?" "What secret?" "Today I went to the cemetery," Lily said. "I put a sunflower on Mom Sarah's grave. I told her that you found me and now we're a family." Ethan held her even tighter. His tears finally fell. They weren't tears of sadness, but tears of gratitude. He knew that he had found the invisible gift, the gift he once thought he would never have again. The gift of love, forgiveness, and healing. Christmas night passed, but an invisible gift had come and changed everything forever. It was the gift of love, forgiveness, and healing. Ethan hadn't just saved Lily. He had saved himself. He had found a new purpose in life, a new family, and a heart that had been healed. And he knew that no matter what storms life might bring, he would never be alone again.